Welcome to News West 9's West Texas View with Johnny Lou Avery.
Welcome to the West Texas View. I'm Johnny Lou Avery, and with me today is John Wayne, or as most of you know him, Cliff Voke. He is a longtime resident here, has been a past employee of this television station, but he's also been a performer on a lot of other venues. And the reason I wanted to introduce him to you today is because he's more widely known probably outside of the Permian Basin for his presentation of The Duke. And it's a wonderful presentation for conferences, church groups, conventions. He does a lot of conventions and conferences. In fact, I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the things some of the colleges have said about his performances. But I wanted you to know Cliff and know how he got into this business, and also what a wonderful program he has that has never had a time more right to bring a patriotism show and a show that brings back good old American values than he has brought back in this show. And Cliff, it's such a pleasure to have you here, and it's such a pleasure to have witnessed this program firsthand. But I want you to talk a little bit about how you got into this, because you've had an illustrious career in a lot of things. You've been, you've had television parts and a lot of other things.
Well, baby sister, I'm glad I'm here. But yeah, I worked at Channel 9 for several years, as you know. You and I worked together here at the station. I was here for 12 years. Before that, I lived in Los Angeles and did some performing. I worked on camera for some soap operas, some television shows, did quite a bit of theater, a lot of commercials, worked in radio.
A lot of voiceovers.
A lot of voiceovers, yeah, I did a lot of voiceovers. In fact, I started in radio a long time ago. And I was lucky to get a good job at a prominent station in Los Angeles a long time ago, and worked there for about 7 years, and then drifted outside of LA to New Mexico, where I worked for a small station in Santa Fe for a couple, 3 years, and then down in Albuquerque, and then drifted back to Los Angeles, and actually started doing I had a business at that time. I was providing extras for film and television, and I was still doing some bit parts and so on. So it's never ever gotten away from me, except when I moved to Midland. So I haven't really been doing much of it, and I've always done the voice, the John Wayne voice, as well as a lot of character voices for a long time. But every time I would do some flippy thing, you know, at a party or whatever, you should do that. And so I had the idea that, well, you know, maybe I should just develop a show. And I researched a lot of it, and there's a million impersonators that do him. But very few, very, very few actually do a show that's a stand-up show that's more than just being in an audience and ad-libbing.
That promotes the values and the patriotism and all of the things that we associate with John Wayne.
Well, you know, he's always been known as being very patriotic, and I think you and I were talking about, I think never is a more important time than now to really rekindle that element of patriotism and Americanism. Not that you're left or right of the spectrum, but just to bring back a lot of those values that certainly you and I grew up on, that I think are still important.
And one of the things that we are so excited about from the standpoint of colleges, and my work has been in the colleges, and that's the reason that was the first thing I did, was to see what the colleges thought about you, was that the administrators in the colleges say the young people are hungry for it. They're hungry for some patriotism and some ideals brought back into and made popular again.
Well, the show runs a little over 45 minutes, and it basically has an open, and then I go directly into kind of a chronological history. I start after the open, talking about the Revolutionary War. We go into the War of 1812. We go into the...
so it's a history lesson as well.
It's a history lesson that goes from the beginning of the Revolutionary period all the way to today. Yeah. So, and I think that's important. The response has been great. In fact, I've even got people that have come up and said, you know, you should do this, you know, for kids. And I go, well, you know, they may not know who John Wayne is, but they like the history lesson
and the
element.
persona, the whole persona is. But for all of us who are older and do understand the Duke, it catches us, and you have captured that persona so well in your presentation, and that's what I like. And you can go to his website and also to the YouTube site and see him in action, but we're going to see him as soon as we take a break, we're going to set him up, and he's going to do just a small 4 or 5 minute section of the 45-minute program, so that if you're planning to have any kind of conferences or conventions or church area conferences, this would be absolutely wonderful to contact him and arrange for him to come and be your speaker or your program. But tell us a little bit more about even the development of the costumes, all the way from the boots and spurs up to the hats.
Well, there's a certain look he had. He had a particular type of vest, a particular type of shirt, and of course a particular type of Stetson. Even down to the gun belt was a signature thing that he had. And so, of course, all these things are available, and so I just accumulated those and put them together.
So you did a lot of research, in other words.
Well, too, and I grew up on him. I grew up on him, and of course, in the 50s, there was a lot of great westerns on television, and I was always, as we have, watched a lot of the old Wayne movies, you know, especially all the ones that he did with John Ford, the director. He did so many with him. Of course, John Ford was a friend. But it's easy to get the costuming right, but it's quite another thing to get the persona right and the delivery and the believability of the character. Even though many have said, oh, he was not a great actor. Well, he probably wasn't, but I think he's a pretty good actor. But he was more than that, an icon.
And he was a natural. It's almost like he was a natural rather than acting. But the thing, though, that is interesting to me is that you don't look like him when you don't have the costume and when you're not doing it. But when you have all this on, you really, really do look like him. We're going to take a break in just a minute, and then when we come back, he's going to be standing up doing his presentation. And he's only going to do about the first 4 or 5 minutes. But take a notepad down, because you're going to want to know more about this before our program's over today. We'll see you in just a minute with another segment of this program.
Stay tuned. West Texas View will be right back.